Thanks to all, thanks to the organizers, fellow presenters, and all interested attendees. For years, Camilo and me, we have been reading together, exchanging ideas in an online space-time that we call El Grupete Lector, reading group, where experiments in reading like the one we are about to present are born. This is not a finished investigation or a conclusive interpretation, but rather an opening, a reading hypothesis, an experiment in writing as well that aims to articulate an intuition we have that it is possible to think of something like an aesthetics of existence in the less thought. To explore this idea, we will begin by examining two very specific notions. One is process of experimentation, and the other is fabulation or the fabulatory function. At the end, we will attempt to tie these explorations together with our hypothesis regarding the possibility of an aesthetic of existence in the less. Given the limited time, we will present some ideas simply as notes. As a bibliographic foundation, it is important to mention that the two procedures we focus on for this talk are explored in the book What is Philosophy, where together with Guattari, Deleuze states in section 7 that art preserves and is the only thing in the world that preserves. It preserves and preserves itself. We find this very important, and it will be key to remember for the conclusion of our presentation. What is preserved? That something of the work of art is a block of sensations that can only be precisely defined as sensation, meaning a composition of percepts and affects. This serves as a somewhat classic definition within Deleuzean philosophy of what Deleuze understands as work of art. Okay, affects and percepts. So, affects. For Deleuze, affects are not affection, feelings, or emotions. We have to remember this. Affects are not affections, feelings, or emotions. In the Deleuzean Guattarian philosophy, affect is always becoming. Affects are non-human becomings of characters in film, theater, or novels, of the figure with capital F, in painting. But they also correspond to the becomings of the creator, the artist, the author. Deleuze explains this in Critique and Clinic, where he states, writing is always a matter of becoming, always unfinished, always in progress, and it overflows any livable or live material. It is a process, meaning a passage of life that traverses the livable and the lived. Writing is inseparable from becoming. In 1,000 Plateaus, Deleuze and Guattari will add that this becoming also sweeps along the spectator, who engage with the work of art. Therefore, every artist is a creator of affects in relation to the percepts or visions that the work provides. The work of art grants us, enables becomings. As spectators, participants in the work of art, The moment we engage with it, we become alone with it. The work of art takes us, moves us, drag us along in an irresistible desterritorialization of becoming. This is why we say that, as becomings, affects are inseparable from percepts. Percepts are not lived perceptions, not what we see, hear, or touch. They do not belong to the sensory order. We have to remember this too. In What is Philosophy, Deleuze and Guattari describe the percept as the non-human landscape of nature. The percept is what sees us, never what we see, because if it were what we see, it would remain within the domain of perception. If in 1,000 plateaus, the pure relation of speed and slowness, the pure affects, exist below or above the threshold of perception, then in What is Philosophy, the landscape itself is what sees us. The percept is turned away from perception, and in the impersonal, we become part of the landscape. We participate in it as much as it does in us, beyond all perception, pure becoming. It cannot happen otherwise. Deleuze will insist. The artist becomes the landscape, and the landscape sees. I don't see the painting sees me. The percept makes sensible the imperceptible forces that exist beyond the maximum threshold and below the minimum threshold. Forces that populate the world and enable or open the path for affects, making us become that landscape in such a way that we cannot merely exist in the world, but must always become with the world. Deleuze cites Cézanne in his course about painting. He says, "A minute of the world is passing. We will not preserve it without becoming it ourselves."
Can I call for the time? Because
It's 10 minutes.
Okay, we're on half. Yeah? We're on half time. Just to see how fast should I run.
Sorry.
Because I can run really fast.
I'm so slow, sorry.
So, process of experimentation. As we saw, affects and percepts are composed or are composed into a block of sensation embodied in in materials. That material is, of course, the work of art. For this reason, Deleuze emphasizes the importance of the material and repeatedly calls us to experiment with it. He urges us to experiment with prudence, which is nothing but an invitation to encounter and engage with sensation itself. Sensation then creates sensation. It insists, it invokes, yet it does not pre-exist its own tracing, nor it is predetermined. To enable sensation, Deleuze suggests a long preparation. Enable sensation requires a disarrangement of all senses. One must rise to the level of the event, possess the necessary strength, and engage in an affective athleticism that allows the imperceptible forces to reveal through the composition of a block of sensation. This is why we call this operation processes of experimentation. It is a process because it remains necessarily unfinished. It's a permanent search, an affective athleticism. This defines the relationship the artist should maintain with their materials. The artist, therefore, is an athlete of affects. He interacts with their materials in a way that brings them closer in their experiments to the figure of the shaman. Meanwhile, sensation requires material means. Thus, processes of experimentation can be understood as the ways in which the artist interacts with the materials which are necessary for sensation to preserve itself. Percepts and affects resist death. And further, I'm going to skip this, it's okay. Yeah. The work of art is not the being of sensation. Rather, the being of sensation, the block of sensation, consists of the percepts and affects enabled by the material of the work of art, shaped through the artist's own style. The work of art is a composition capable of sustaining itself. Once expressed, the work of art becomes completely independent of the author, of the materials, and of the characters that compose it. It composes a block of sensation that individualizes itself and discovers, produces, traces, invents its own process of individuation. Yeah. On the other hand, the fabulatory function is another inseparable procedure from the process of experimentation in the process of enabling the block of sensation. Deleuze adopts this concept from Bresson, and from the very beginning he gives it a political use. In this procedure lies a political key to art that is much more explicit and widely recognized. We recall the famous phrase Deleuze borrows from Kafka and or Klee. The people are what is missing, the people are what is coming, the people to come. This refers to people that emerge, which are invented or created by the fabulatory function. Because the people do not exist, they are not given, it is necessary to create them. The people to come are created through becomings. In negotiations, and in the same sense, Deleuze states, intercessors are necessary. I need my intercessors to express myself, and they would not be able to express themselves without me. In that sense, we always work in and as a group, even if it often remains imperceptible, as we read alone, write alone, and so on. Deleuze adds that we need another one who fabulates, someone caught in the act of fabulation. Thus, fabulation is always constituted between two or more, a pack. In this sense, fabulate is to manage to grasp the movement of constitution of a people that is not given. Deleuze reminds us, for instance, that even when being women, we must engage within a becoming woman that breaks away from our majoritarian subjections. That is not given. There is nothing inherently necessary in women that determines a becoming woman. This perpetual search extends to our ways of life as well, not only as a woman. I'm skipping a couple of things.
Following person? Okay.
Then to write, to paint, to compose is already to become. And it is not a becoming artist, because it's not about turning into or transforming into something or someone. It is always becoming something else. Something, becoming mouse, becoming insect, becoming wolf, becoming book. Thus, to form a pack is to form a people through contagion, never through reproduction. Author, character, and spectator, we all intercommunicated and then indistinguishable and co-penetrated. Here we are facing the political act of fabulation that enables becomings, affects, and percepts as a block of sensation, leading us to recognize that in Deleuze, the artist is also now very close to the prophet. Next. Let's see if we can pack this together. So what we have tried is, by engaging in exercises like this, following some key notions in the aesthetic work of Deleuze, we try perhaps to initiate a research agenda that we call Aesthetics of Existence in Deleuze. There is only, as far as I know, one book called like that, and it has nothing to do with this. So perhaps we are initiating an agenda. And that agenda would follow to start 5 basic ideas. I don't know if they're there, yes. First, Deleuze's questions are fundamentally political, and the political field must be understood as a field of forces that impose certain modes of visibility and enunciability within which it is immensely difficult to think of an outside. 2, Deleuze is not naive about this difficulty, and according to our hypothesis, this is why he moves towards art. Not because he is interested in making a philosophy of cinema, philosophy of theater, philosophy of painting, but rather to find and trace connections with another plane inhabited by notions, operations, displacements, intensities, velocities, decelerizations of a radically different nature than that of the political field. He does this to return with the eyes red, not to answer political questions, but to be able to formulate them at the height of the event they demand. 3, we know that Deleuze does not explicitly use the term aesthetics of existence. As far as I have read, it doesn't appear even once. However, through exercises like the one we present here, we authorize ourselves, why not, to propose it, especially based on what we have called elsewhere a non-optimistic vitalism. What does that mean? That the liberating life is not a happy act, is not a redeeming one, is not pleasurable, is not joyful, is not programmatic nor guaranteed. It involves, above all, some sort of demolition and questioning of what we are, because the terrain of this political struggle is fundamentally what we are, how we came to be that, and how to stop being it once and for all. It's already 5? It's already done? It's done.
Okay.
Yeah, so more than being interested in the products of art, the film, the painting, the sculpture, we're interested in the procedures that Deleuze traces to try to transduct them, sic simondon, into procedures in which we can relate to our own existence. In that sense, we are penetrating Deleuze with a Foucaultian question through the aesthetic books of Deleuze himself. That'll be most of it. Thanks.